There's one. Oh, he picked it up, didn't he? Got him. He's just a little guy. Oh my goodness. Well, sometimes you just got to think big. Hey guys, this is Gene Jensen. Today we're going to talk about what to do when the fishing is absolutely miserably tough. Man, finesse fishing. Years ago, I was known as strictly a finesse fisherman. It's something that I had a lot of confidence in, and I caught a lot of fish that way, but it just never caught a whole lot of big ones. And that's when I started to switch. But when the bite is tough, when you can't get a bite, and when the weather conditions are crazy like they've been lately, I mean, the water temperature here should be in the mid to high 60s. It's in the mid to high 50s. The fish want to spawn, but they can't move up because the water temperature is not right. It's just funky and just a very, very difficult time to get a bite. And so when you go into those type of situations, be excited, be happy about every little fish that you catch, even those little dinky ones. That was a win. That was a win for me. I found a fish, I was able to get a bite, I was able to catch it. But when you're finesse fishing is more of a mindset than it is anything else. You've got to realize that the bite is tough. You've got to slow way down. A lot of times you have to downsize your baits and fish really, really slow. I'm fishing a little finesse worm on a drop shot. And we're going to talk about the different types of rigs you can use for finesse fishing and the different ways that you catch fish finesse fishing. All right, so let's talk about the different rigs that I tie on when I need to finesse fish. One is going to be a drop shot. A Nico rig, a shaky head, a Ned Rig, and a Mojo Rig are the five different rigs that I use when I am finesse fishing, when I have to get out and just beat them up and try to catch any fish that'll bite. But the conditions that cause that tough bite are crazy changing weather conditions like we have right now. We've had 2 and 3 days of cold rain, drop the water temperature. The bass have pulled out off of the bank. They're out deep. They don't really want to bite. Falling water levels will, again, pull the bass out, and it'll make them get a little funky. Slick, calm water and high pressure systems, when you've got those high bluebird skies after a front moves through, can really make it tough. And that's when I'm always going to make sure that I have some type of a finesse rod with me. The rods that I use when I'm finesse fishing are simple. I'm using light line, so I've got to go with a spinning rod. A medium light action spinning rod is what I have, what I usually go to with just about any one of these techniques. So I've got a 7'3" medium light action spinning rod right here, and I've got 20-pound braid, and then the leader that I tie on is, I never tie anything more than 8-pound test. I want 8 or less. I've got 6.2 tied on right now, some Seaguar finesse line 6.2 tied on for this drop shot rig. And that's what I'm going to tie on. I don't want to give them any reason not to bite my worm. And so I'm going to go with really, really light tackle. A size 3000 reel. This is a Creed GT. Any 3000 reel would do. Just make sure it's got a good drag, and always check your drag, especially when you're using that light line, because you can put that light line on there and not check your drag, and first fish bites, set the hook and the line breaks, and it may be the only bite you get all day. So always check the drag. And then again, any time that I can't get a bite and I really need to get a bite, I go to a finesse technique. That's the last technique that I will do. So let's talk about what I'm doing right here. What I've got is I've got a lake that's super clear water. We've got really crazy weather conditions. Water temperature is 57.2. It's the first sunny day they've had in about 4 or 5 days. It's been cold rain. This is a pretty cool little lake. It's at High Creek Falls State Park in Tennessee, and they say it's got big ones. And because of the weather, I haven't been able to get a big bite in And so I've resorted to finesse fishing. Well, let's go over the list of finesse baits that I've used and talk about the conditions. I've got submerged vegetation down to about 12 feet deep. The fish are around that grass. Problem is that you have certain finesse baits or a lot of baits that just can't come through that grass. They pick up a lot of that grass and they don't get bit. So anything that's on the bottom, like a shaky head, a Ned Rig, or a Nico rig, is really tough to fish in that grass. And so those are out. And so I always go, when I have a submerged vegetation that's, you know, not very tall, maybe from here to here, I'm going to go with a drop shot. What that does is it gets the bait down quickly. It allows me to keep it in place, and it allows me to fish above the grass because that worm, here, let me reel it in, because that worm is above the weight. So the weight's sitting on the bottom, and I'm sitting here shaking it up and down. I'm going to give you a real quick tutorial on drop shot fishing. I'm not going to go into the bare bone details because that's for another video. But I'm going to let it sink to the bottom, let that weight get buried in that grass and not even worry about it. And I'm going to shake it. And I'm going to shake it on a slack line. And I'm just going to let it sit there. And I'm going to pay attention to, if I get a bite, I'm going to pay attention to what happened with that bite. What was I doing? And for instance, was I keeping it perfectly still? Did I let it pause for a long period of time, or was I shaking it a lot when I got bit? And when you get bit once on a long pause, a lot of times that's your pattern. That's what you need to be doing. So you shake it a little bit, let it sink down to the bottom, drop it to a slack line, let it sink down to the bottom, and just sit there and feel. And that's why it's important to have some good braided line to be able to feel any little bite, even on a slack line. That braided line has no stretch, but I'm going to let it drop back down, and I'm just going to shake it, and I'm working it out through that grass. I'm sitting in 20 feet of water, throwing up into about 8, and bringing it down this point that has this grass on there. And as I get a little too much grass in that, on that shaky head, or on that drop shot, I'm going to shake that grass off. You know, grass here really does limit you, especially when you're finesse fishing, limit you to what you want to fish. The other one that I use is called a Mojo Rig, or a split shot rig. All right, so this one you may not have heard of, and like I said, it's called a Mojo Rig. And I've been fishing it for years. I caught one of my personal bests on it, that 9.98. That was my personal best for many, many, many years. But it's just what it is, it's a weight pegged to the line about 5 to 6 inches up in front of a small straight shanked hook. This is a Gamakatsu, one of those new Gamakatsus with the 10 keeper. They use them for drop shot, and I use them for just about anything. But I got some geese over there not happy about something. We're gonna let them get out of the way. But the soft plastics that I like to use when I'm using a Mojo Rig, and a Mojo Rig is excellent for coming through grass, but it's important that you use plastics that aren't going to get caught up in the grass as well. And I like to use straight tail worms, finesse worms, trick worms, any kind of straight tail worm. But that's how it's rigged up. I've got a black one right here. I like black and blue, and I have no clue why my boat, whether I'm in my kayak or in my big boat, my boats like to turn to where the sun is at my back, and it gives you a horrible camera angle. And I don't know, I'm getting frustrated with that, but it happens all the time. But anyway, a Mojo Rig. Now, the reason I don't like to talk about this a lot is because these weights right here are hard to find. I make my own, but if you can't find these weights, which I'm pretty sure the Mojo weight company went out of business, you can use 2 split shots. They don't come through the grass quite as good, but they do they do pretty good. 2 or 3 small split shots, pinched about 5 to 6 inches up the line, will do just as good. Water Gremlin makes some that look like bullet weights, little sharp nose pinch on weights. I use a couple of those, of the smallest ones that they make is what I'll use when I'm, pardon the pun, when I'm in a pinch. So, but that's a Mojo Rig, and basically what it is I'm fishing it on, again, a 7'3" medium light action spinning rod, a 3000 series reel. I like to use high vis line with it because I'm fishing a lot of it on slack line, a yellow or some other type of high vis braided line with 6 or less pound test, or 8 or less pound test fluorocarbon. And you're fishing it like a Carolina rig, but you're fishing it on top of the grass. It's so light, it's so snag resistant that it comes over top of the grass really, really easy. And if the bass are sitting on and cruising along the thicker grass or any type of a submerged grass, really, really good way of catching them. And but like I said, those weights are just hard to find. You know, and like I said earlier, finesse fishing is more of a mindset. And what I mean is you've really got to slow down. You really got to just pick things apart. It's not a fast way to fish. And there's a lot of tricks that I've learned over the years to be able to do this and be able to fish really slow. Anytime I feel like I need to fish slow, whether it be a jig or some type of a finesse rig, I'm gonna put my hand in my pocket, or when I'm sitting in my kayak, I stick my hand behind my life jacket, and it causes me to slow down because my hand's not on the handle to reel it in. I'll just do this, and this is how I fish. I stick my hand in my pocket. If I'm in my big boat, I may sit down on a chair, something to slow your mind down and slow your process down. If you're standing up, if you get your hand on the handle, you tend to fish faster. All right, real quick, let's talk about when to use the other types of baits. You know, I already talked about the drop shot. Now the drop shot, well, let's talk more about the drop shot. The drop shot itself can be used in a lot of different situations. Let me pull mine out and I'll show you how I've got it rigged. I'm actually using the same type of hook that I'm using on my Mojo rig, but this is how I've got it rigged. And this type of rig, when you do it like this, it's weedless, and so it comes to the grass easy, but you can also flip it into bushes and stuff like that. Really got to be careful doing that because you'll break line off. But if the fish are in the bushes, get in there, get a bite, set the hook, and then worry about how you're going to get it out. That's how I'm going to rig it pretty much most of the time, especially when I'm fishing anything that it can get snagged up in. Now the Nico rig, and I've got a video about that. I'll link it right up here. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about fishing it. I'm going to make another video here in a little bit about fishing it. But uh-oh, geese. Can I scare them? Nope. They're just loud. So, but a Nico rig is great when you're fishing bare bottom and not a whole lot of stuff to get snagged in, clay banks, hard banks, things like that. And it really, and if there is a way to rig it weedless that I haven't quite figured out yet, but there's a way to rig it weedless where you can throw it into brush piles and stuff like that. But I'm gonna learn a little bit more about that, and I'm gonna make another video about a Nico rig. The shaky head's really good in anything but grass. So you're throwing it into bushes, you're throwing it up on hard bottom, things like that, and shaky head is really, really good. The Ned Rig itself, Ned Rig is probably pretty close to my favorite rig to fish when they're not biting. I can't fish it right now because of the grass, but man, you get a weedless Ned Rig or anything like that, you can throw it into anything. And fish just love it for some reason. A little stupid little half of a Cinco, a half of a stick bait. You know, those little TRDs are what I use from Z-Man. It's incredible how many bites you can get on a dang Ned Rig. And they'll fish anywhere, really. And then, what else? What's the other one? Oh, and the Mojo Rig. Mojo Rig is what I fish specifically in grass. And it's one of those things that it just tends to get more bites than most anything. But like I say, I don't talk about it much because those weights are so hard to find, and I don't want to get everybody's hopes up to being able to fish this new rig or when there's no weights available to fish it that way. But split shot rig is just exactly the same thing. Like I said, just pinch a couple of weights on there. All right, well, let's get out there, see if I can catch a few more on some finesse baits. Man, I hate this weather. But I'm gonna be happy for every bite that I get. There's one. Got it. A little bitty one. But it's fun to catch them when the bite's tough. For sure. Man. I missed one a minute ago that was quite a bit bigger than this one. But that's finesse fishing, especially when the bite's tough. Be proud of every little fish that you catch. It ain't always easy, guys. It really isn't. Be sure to check out my new website, Flukemaster.com. It's got all my apparel, all kinds of cool stuff. We add stuff on there all the time. Matter of fact, we added something today. It's just fun. Ooh, there's some more underneath the boat. Let's see if I can catch another one. But like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. introduce them to my channel to help you teach them how to fish, more importantly. Get out on the water, go out and catch some fish, and have a great day.